Everyone, this executive order signed by Trump affects mostly the United States, I think, but I think that it is notable because Trump outlines clearly what the problem with Twitter and these platforms that became publishers with an opinion who would shape what people got to see, right? And Facebook, Twitter, they can sway elections. And Google says that they've swayed an election by to the tune of more than 8 million votes. And this was in the United States being questioned by Ted Cruz in 2019. The video was viral for a little while and then went away. And I don't want to rehash that. I think this is noteworthy. And I think that ultimately, if Twitter is allowed to continue and enjoys the protection in other countries that Trump is repealing in the United States, I think that it will continue to behave badly in the way that Trump is outlining here. So I don't think that this will fix Twitter in Canada. I don't. Unless there's a crushing lawsuit that nearly puts them out of business, and unless the Canadian government says, yeah, we want you to do that, I don't think that they're going to change anything in Canada with regards to Twitter. And not unless they have to. And they have maybe if the whole world adopts the standard that Trump's asking for here, but I don't see Twitter saying, you know what, you're right. And I don't see the Canadian government saying, you're right, free speech for all sides, everybody gets a fair shake. I mean, if you've won the rigged game, why unrig the game? Like, there has to be an impetus to that. There has to be a reason for it. The citizenry have to demand it. And right now, the leftists are quite comfortable in their arrogance, in their correctness, right? Like, look around on Twitter, post some memes that are pro-Trump on Facebook. And it's not even that you need to be pro-Trump. You just need to see how people what they think about that, and watch how their correctness and the people who like their comments and inflate that correctness continue to propagate the brutal silencing of anybody who disagrees, right? And not just being beaten in a conversation, but like, I hope you get COVID-19. I hope you're not here anymore because you're so abhorrent, right? Like that kind of stuff, right? And it's crazy. It's crazy because for all of the connectedness that Facebook is supposed to bring, for all of the, better communication that Twitter is supposed to foster, I mean, like, the job is to keep eyeballs on the screen, right? If you work for Twitter, if you work for Facebook, your job is to keep eyeballs on that app. And the way you do that is arguments. So they want to say one thing. They want to say, oh, we connect families and friends. We're the public sphere of conversation for Twitter or Facebook. They connect families and friends. But then the reality is, like, conflict is the thing that really drives the social media platform, right? It's not conversation to get to a better understanding of our situation. It's conversation to win an argument. It's conversation to beat somebody. It's conversation to prove to somebody that Trump's great or Trump's awful, right? It's the satisfaction you feel when you win the argument and people like your comment, right? Man, this is a long intro. Okay, here we go. Here's Trump saying that, here's Trump outlining it. I've picked a little bit of this part, but links in the description if you want to check it out. Here we go.
Currently, social media giants like Twitter receive an unprecedented liability shield based on the theory that they're a neutral platform, which they're not an editor with a viewpoint. My executive order calls for new regulations under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act to make it that social media companies that engage in censoring or any political conduct will not be able to keep their liability shield. That's a big deal. They have a shield. They can do what they want. They have a shield. They're not going to have that shield. My executive order further instructs the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, to prohibit social media companies from engaging in any deceptive acts or practices affecting commerce. This authority resides in Section 5 of the Federal Trade Commission Act. I think you know it pretty well. Most of you know it very well. I would think you know it quite well, right? Additionally, I'm directing the Attorney General to work cooperatively with the states. He's going to be working very much and very closely in cooperation with the states to enforce their own laws against such deceptive business practices. The states have broad and powerful...
Okay, blah, 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 blah. I probably should have cut it off a little earlier. There's an earlier clip where he lists like shaping, censoring. He goes through a list of names of other things they could call it. I thought he was going to do it again, but sorry, I was wrong, and we kept it running longer than anticipated. Anyway, regardless, calling Twitter out, calling Facebook out for censoring or removing conservative voices, using an executive order, I think it's a good first step. And I think that he's going to be fought every step of the way. I mean, Trump's tweet yesterday was censored by Twitter with, they said that it violated Twitter rules calling for violence. This was on the Minnesota riots. And so there's a situation brewing where a major corporation like Twitter is drawing a line in the sand and saying, we're more correct than the president of the United States of America. He violated our rules, and so we're gonna silence him. And like that's kind of unprecedented. I mean, I'm sure there's situations in history where a newspaper said no to a president or something to that effect, but this is the modern version of that, and Twitter is widely seen to be the public sphere of conversation. So I think this is a big deal, and I don't think that this is going to change anything in Canada, but I think it's notable. Okay, here's Pierre Poilievre, and he's asking about infrastructure projects in Canada. Back to Canada. This is Canada Poly after all. And infrastructure was the way Justin Trudeau got into office in 2015. He said, we're going to go into debt. We're going to spend money to build Canada on infrastructure. And that's what Canada really needs. And we're going to spend lots of money, and we're going to spend $10 billion. $10 billion was the suggested deficit, and then we got to 20 billion, and now we're in the 300 billions according to Blacklocks. I saw a report this morning talking about $371 billion spent in March. I thought, oh my goodness, I don't doubt it. But anyway, here's Pierre Poilievre trying to get a response. This is the Standing Committee on Finance, wondering how much the infrastructure projects have cost Canada, and the answer is, here we go.
Have you been able to get a list of all the projects the government has so far funded under its infrastructure program since it took office in 2015?
We asked that question many, many times. We never were able to get a full list. And I think the issue is that there is no centralized record holding at Infrastructure Canada, because the various programs, are delivered by multiple departments, and there doesn't seem to exist a list. We've asked, and Jason can attest to, Jason was part of these discussions, we've asked more than once, and we never got a complete list of projects under the Invest in Canada plans or infrastructure programs.
And how much money have they spent on this program so far?
So far, it's tens of billions, certainly.
And they don't know where it went.
If they know, they're not telling us all of the details of each dollar where it went.
Well,
if they know, they're not telling us. I wish the camera had been on him when they asked, like, how much has been spent, and he said, tens of billions of dollars. Yeah, so there's no centralized list. There's no account. Later in the clip, Mr. Poilievre equates it to a receipt. He says, if I go spend $500 at the grocery store, and my wife asks, how much, how did you spend $500? She would expect me to produce a receipt. There's no itemized list. A receipt would be an itemized list of everything bought. There's no itemized list for the infrastructure projects, but there's been tens of billions of dollars spent. Is that correct? And basically he says, yeah, that's about right. That's where we're at. And so we're in a situation where the government is suspended, essentially prorogued, with a couple of councils happening and 4 days of sitting through the summer where you can talk about something other than COVID-19. So that's inappropriate for a crisis, right? To understate it, inappropriate for a crisis. There's an emergency. What should we do, everybody? Let's calm down, stop working as much, and we'll wait until September to see what we should really do. It just seems, and I know they're spending lots of money. They've spent lots and lots of money. Justin Trudeau's doing daily press conferences and all that other stuff. But this is the other side of the accountability, right? Like, this is the other side of that. This is the work that's not getting done. This is the work that's not being able to be not accounted for, but really finished in a meaningful way, because, well, it's all it's all on hold until September. COVID-19 is the thing to be dealt with, right? And helping people. I saw more money for Aboriginal people on reserves or Indigenous people on reserves today. Okay, but there's a real impact to this. There's a real fiscal impact to this. There's a real fiscal impact to just the infrastructure spending that has seemingly has no accountability. These things should be talked about, and they won't be talked about because of the legislative calendar and the fact that things have been kicked off until September. And when we get back in September, we've got like 8 months of backlog, right? They're going to want to get hopping on that plastics ban, right? That was supposed to be March, right? So they're going to go through those procedural things. The Liberals control the calendar. They have a majority government. More than that, we don't have the ability to bring the government down. There's no confidence vote scheduled, as far as I know, between now and September. I could be wrong. Are one of those 4 days scheduled to be a confidence vote? Nope, I didn't think so. If I'm wrong, please do tell me. But what I heard was and maybe the minority, maybe the other parties are putting something together for those days. Maybe they will be allowed to introduce some talking points for those days. Maybe they will. But I don't think that that's going to be a priority. The Conservatives are leaderless. The NDP have basically balance of power along with the Bloc Québécois. They don't want to make changes. Why? If one of them doesn't agree, then the other one probably will. And then if both of those parties don't want to agree, they have a serious conversation with, do we want to bring down the government over this? And probably they'll find enough to agree. Which, I'm just saying, up till now, that's what we've seen, right? You skate between the NDP and the Bloc with the Greens as an added buffer, right? And things don't get done, and things get pushed that shouldn't be priorities, in my opinion. Moving on, Ford says he's done taking bullets for union members who wouldn't inspect care homes. So the inspectors are union members, and this is from CBC. Premier Doug Ford said Thursday that he's sick of, quote, taking bullets for unionized government inspectors who he alleges refused to go into the province's long-term care homes to carry out inspections in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic because of safety concerns. Ford's government has faced sharp criticism over the conditions in some long-term care homes following the release of a shocking report by the Canadian Armed Forces, which has sent soldiers in to help with the homes hit hardest by the novel coronavirus. The truth of the matter is, inspectors were refusing to go into these homes, Ford said during his daily press briefing. Enough's enough, they have to be accountable too. In a letter written to Ford and Minister of Long-Term Care, Mary Lee Fullerton, dated April 22nd, Ontario Public Servants Employees Union, OPSEU, President Smokey Thomas, said inspectors were, quote, overworked and frustrated, but dutifully committed to their obligations amidst this pandemic. Quote, they continue to investigate what needs to be done to flatten the curve and save lives, despite the fact that only 164 inspectors are on the job supporting 626 homes, Thomas wrote, while also pushing for increased staffing. Quick back of the napkin math there. How many homes each, everyone? Yeah, that's 5 homes. Is that too many homes to inspect? As a job, like as a caseload, if you had 5 homes, I mean, it would depend on the location. If one was in Huntsville, let's say, and the other one in Kitchener, that would be problematic, right? But like 5 homes, you might have an argument in some rural settings that that's not appropriate. You might need some more staff for that, just for distance traveled, etc. But 5 homes is, right, 626 divided by 126 people, 5 homes to look after. I don't think we should have been seeing the appalling conditions that were coming out of the Army report that we did see. I don't think that understaffing of the inspectors is the issue here. If you have 5 homes, you've got an idea of the hierarchy. And if 5 of them are in crisis at the level that we saw from the Army reports, then that's a bigger problem than maybe the inspector could handle. And I go back to my previous hypothesis of not advocating to say this is wrong makes you bad at your job. If you don't know that if all 5 of your homes are in crisis, then that's something that needs to be talked about and fixed and not just swept under the rug, then maybe you're bad at your job. Maybe you're incompetent. Maybe it's not understaffing that's the problem, right? And who knows? But it seems like the positioning here is trying to make it seem like they agree with the union rep or the union president, but the numbers don't agree. Like, you should be able to prioritize. You should be able to have things running smoothly at a few of your homes. And if there's a crisis, people should know about that. It's certainly a crisis of the level that the Army is reporting. Like, if one of your homes was experiencing that, people should have known, right? Where are these inspectors? And they were inspecting by phone. It's very interesting. Back to this. In an interview with CBC News, and I want to make the point as well, this was a letter dated April 22nd. So this isn't, they're reporting this as May 28th or whatever, 29th, 28th. But I want to see now, 28th. But the letter was April 22nd. The CBC interview, I think, is up to date. So, but they don't give a date for the CBC interview. But I just want to make sure you understand it's not up to date, the letter. I mean, it's up to date, but it's a month out, right? 22nd of April is a month ago, more than a month ago. Back to this. In an interview with CBC News, Thomas called Ford's statements about inspectors refusing to work, quote, patently untrue. Instead, he said managers gave direction to inspectors not to enter long-term care homes. So he's saying, my inspectors tried to go to the long-term care homes, but we were told by management we weren't allowed to go in. And then the next paragraph, he says, all the union wanted to do was ensure inspections were done safely with personal protective equipment in place before inspectors were sent in, he added. So I think that it's notable as well that he's talking about how Ford lied, one, and then in the same sentence he says, well, we wanted to make sure that the inspectors had proper PPE in place before they went in. So when Ford said that they wouldn't go in because they were concerned about safety, he wasn't lying. And I just think, take note, right? Like the newspaper is giving water to these people who are saying this guy's a liar, and then walking back their statement in the next statement, right? This is an email. This is from Travis Donraj. Sorry if I've got that wrong, Travis. And he's the Queen's Park Bureau Chief for Global News. So he's reporting this email was just sent to the staff in the Ministry of Long-Term Care by senior management regarding Doug Ford's comments regarding the inspections this afternoon. So that's a part of what we were reading about there. It's not all of it. And this is what that says. It says, I just wanted to reach out and send a message, read the media statements today. I think it's safe to say feeling shocked and disappointment is a big understatement. Many of us have worked for the ministry for a number of years, and today was probably one of the very lows we've experienced as a program. I wanted to acknowledge people's concerns and know that what we shared today was not the perception or viewpoints of any of your managers or senior leadership team. I'm being completely honest that I was personally appalled with the many fallacies that were communicated today. Having said that, we are a team and we'll continue to support each other in our roles the best we can, and know I have escalated people's concern for action. Wouldn't one of the worst days have been like when the report came out and it was laid bare that a whole bunch of your people didn't do the job that they were supposed to be doing? They were supposed to be protecting people, and they didn't do that, from COVID-19 and from aggressive staff and from infectious fungal infections, from improper cleaning, and from a whole litany of other items. Like, how about the days where there were high death rates in the long-term care facilities that your inspectors were supposed to maintain as well? I mean, I just think that the day you get called out being the very lows your program has experienced is not appropriate, right? Really, really tone deaf, not appropriate. It's very, just like, these are the people who are in charge, right, of making sure that the long-term care facilities are good. And they're upset at the premier for lodging fallacies. But the core is true. And if the problems outlined in that report are even like half true, right? Like, it should have been taken seriously long before the military was called in to help with COVID-19. They weren't called in to help with the appalling conditions. Maybe they should have been, right? And these people are worried about how people feel and the job they did. They didn't do the job. So that's problematic, right? It's problematic. Really, I mean, and I don't know which management team or whatever sent that. And the reason I'm giving it credence is because of who's tweeting it out, right? Like a bureau chief tweeting this out gives credence to this being a legit email sent by the people who they say it was sent by. So, tone deaf leadership all across the board in Canada right now. It's like Mr. Morneau not answering the question and then telling Mr. Poilievre he's not prepared to be in government because he doesn't know the numbers that he was asking Mr. Morneau about, right? Like, it's It's like one of those maddening Facebook conversations where you know that it's like playing chess with a pigeon, right? Like it doesn't matter if you win because the pigeon's just going to walk around and shit all over the board anyway, right? Like don't play chess with a pigeon. Back to this. Wearing a mask at home may help reduce the spread of COVID-19, according to a new study. This is stupid. This is absolutely just dumb. Like, we've turned the corner. No, wearing a mask at home does not help reduce the spread of COVID-19 unless you actually have COVID-19. Here's a story in the New York Post. New Jersey driver crashes car after passing out from wearing an N95 mask. Oxygen deprivation can lead to adverse effects, just like everything else in the world. Going outside can lead to adverse effects, right? Even if you do nothing but go outside, the sun is there. Like having this idea that we can protect ourselves with little fabric things tied around our faces. It's just more fear to throw on the fire, to continue the division, to continue the, if you're not doing this arbitrary thing, clap at the sky, flatten the curve, wear the mask, whatever it is, right? If you're not doing that thing, you're not one of us, right? No. The answer is no. Fake news. Ridiculous. And why not try Islamophobia? This is the last story for this morning. Global News is reporting, this is May 29th, 2020. Canadian Council of Imams alleges Islamophobia at CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, after Ottawa Mosque loses charity status. I mean, I guess if it works, you just keep doing it, right? Like, why not? You get more of what you incentivize, and you incentivize things by giving out money, right? The Canadian Council of Imams is calling on the federal government to investigate their allegations of Islamophobia within the Canadian Revenue Agency for making what they call false and misleading claims against two Muslim leaders. The allegations come after the CRA stripped the charity status of the Ottawa Islamic Centre and Asylum Mosque in 2018 following audits that raised concerns about past guest speakers and activities that promote hate and intolerance. The CCI said the CRA published defamatory statements against two of its members, Imam Abdullah Hakim Quick and Imam Saeed Rajeh. Sorry, I've got that. I'm sure I've got the second one wrong. The first one I thought was pretty good, which falsely connected them to hate, intolerance, and terrorism. Both Quick and Rajeh, oh my goodness, both of them said their apologies for past comments were not considered by the CRA, and there was no effort made by the agency to give them a chance to respond to the allegations, which they said often include statements being taken out of context. So what's the level of expectation for CRA? Do you expect them to call up everyone claiming charity status and ask them if they meant their hateful, racist comments said in this video, or do you denounce them? If you denounce them, you'll get the tax break. Oh, right. Oh, you denounce it. Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for confirming. Have a good day. Right? Like, what do you want? It seems every little bit of our system is open to be abused and opened up for litigation, right? Like, if you get your charity status revoked, it is now not up to you to behave in the way that you're supposed to behave in order to receive the charity status. No. It is now up to you to accuse the CRA of racism until you get their decision repealed, and then you win. Like, it's just we're no longer we're looking for loopholes. We're pushing the loopholes. We're doing everything we possibly can to water down and dilute a system that previously was meant to protect the institutions that we've got, and now it's meant to give credibility to allegations like this. And it's the perversion is hard to miss. And how do you win in a system where they've rigged the game? And why would they unrig the game when they've won? Right? There's no reason for them to. They're not going to. You don't give up power when you've got it. When you've won the game, you don't say, oh, well, let's put all my money on the line again and roll the dice. Sorry, it just doesn't work. That's why regular elections are a thing. But when you've rigged the game, right? Anyway. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. I just recorded an episode yesterday with Kelly, and that went up last night. So it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of. I thought it was a really good conversation. It was about half an hour on she's from Saskatchewan, so it was on the gun ban and the difference in the COVID outbreak. And well, check it out, speakingmoistly.co. And have a wonderful, wonderful day.